Hi everyone, let's get started. Welcome to the Tuesday, October 14th, 2025 SIG multi-cluster call. I've been reminded that we're supposed to say at the start of calls that this is a CNCF sponsored call, and as such, the code of conduct applies. So please be kind to one another and respectful. We have a few topics on the agenda. I'm not sure who added things to the scrub. Okay, no one wants to help. That's fine. But Laura, do you mind sharing your screen? Since my Zoom crashes when I try.
Yes. Hello. I will.
Hello.
Can you give
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Can
Yeah.
you give me a screen share?
Oh, sorry.
Too?
Yes,
Yeah.
I do
No.
need to change that. I forgot. There you go.
Okay. And then one more change over here. Okay. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Share this. Make this a little bit bigger. Okay. Here we are. Okay. So starting at the top, we have placement decision API for multi-cluster scheduling. Last update. There's a push a week ago and reviewed 2 weeks ago. Looks like some comments have been okay. I do remember this from a while ago. Some comments have been addressed. I don't think Mike is on the call, but I'm going to add. Whoa. Looks like addressed from this past, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Yeah, this one really just needs a re-review.
Okay.
From me and whoever else is interested, but I haven't had time to look at it in the last week.
Yep. Please help us give it another re-review and then also another review from leads. Okay, so I think that's that. I think it was presented a couple weeks ago again too, or at least discussed. So
yeah.
Let me see if I can find that.
It wasn't last week's scrub, I think.
Oh, okay. Not like a big talk. Okay. Got it. Okay. Sorry, I'm scrolling chaotically. On to the next one.
Yep, which is the CRD version label.
Okay. And then let's see. There was some chatter about some of the specifics, it looks like. Okay, so this needs another LGTM generally at least, but then there was, like mechanically, but then there was this comment. Shall we read it? For I would caution that a mismatch here will quickly get confusing. If you want to add some kind of automation, it's just setting a needs patch bump and some release. Okay, they're nearly corresponding release for every individual change. But I do see the desire for minimize risk might miss important changes. There are more structured approaches to this that some projects have adopted, like creating changelog entry files to accompany each PR that include, if it's a major minor patch change, which can be compiled and inspected. Okay. And then there's a disagreement on whether it will be confusing. It's more supposed to be used by implementers to auto install and prevent downgrades than users. And implementers can just import whatever hash they want in the CRD installer from the project. It just do its thing as the version is bumped on every CRD change. Instead, if we only bump version while we release project, auto installing the CRDs, implementers won't be able to use version. For instance, on Cilium, we always bump the patch of the CRDs when we change to one of our CRD. Got a little lost there. Okay, hold on.
Yeah, it's like when like there is a label version on the CRD. Well, this is what the PR is proposing.
Okay, yeah,
And
sure. Won't be the same as the project tag. Cool.
yeah, well, if it's the same as the project tag, it means that for us that would use that to auto install CRD, we could not like the auto installer of those CRD would not be able to see a difference if we just use a dev version to another, like just put the hash without a release in between. And well, basically we would need to use a tag release each time we want to bump MCS API now, practically speaking. So yeah, I believe that's the main difference. If I didn't lose you in my explanation.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and as you say, if well, so there's two aspects to this. The first is if there aren't all that many changes, then there won't be much of a versions queue anyway.
Sure.
And yeah, we can resync if it becomes a problem.
Okay.
At some point. So yeah, I'm not sure it's much of a concern.
I see. Okay. Recent conversation about release tag and its machinery versus the CRD version string bump, and how they should be synced or not. Discussion, or I would say, what it's 10:14 SIG MC meeting mentioned that that like should not, I guess, since it seems that we can resync later per Arthur's comment, or here I'll link it.
It doesn't happen.
Oh, it's happening right now. Okay. Is he not on the call? Yeah, he's just like communicating from afar. I love that.
I pinged him to ask him if he wants to join the call, but
I know.
he's not on Slack. He's just commenting.
He's just catching up with stuff.
Probably like offline or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah. But I will mention this. We can choose to resync them later per last comment in blah, and then ultimately this is a okay. LGTM at this point. Okay, so I think that's what is currently discussed.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I do agree. They're pretty slow changing too. So the blast radius is low. Okay. Add additional cluster specific auth info field to the cluster profile object. Let's see.
Yeah, this one hasn't moved. Well, I did okay to test, and it's missing an updated TOC, but I haven't had time to look at it properly. Okay. I don't think anybody else has either.
Okay. I'll just put a note. Triage note. Needs reviews from the community. Please take a look. Okay, cool. All right. Rename the credential provider field. I think we did talk about this last time a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. All right, I think it just needs a rebase, and there's one comment here that sounds like it was discussed from the call. So let me link this. Triage notes. So I think for at least what I remember from last week is that this main thing had been addressed. Let me just, sorry, go back here. We didn't take any other notes, but I do remember that being discussed.
Yeah.
I recall from last week's SIG-MC that the main discussion was that this could go through with the changes from that's okay, hold on. I have something in here in my copy paste. This is the one I want. Okay, and then some unanswered comments since then recently, like this, and then rebase, and then ready for another review after that. I think that's basically what it is. I mean, there's Quarantine's comment here about whether it's really worth deprecating. We did talk about it last time in terms of its minimal scope and early stage, giving it flexibility to not have to get too excited about that. So as it is early enough in its like adoption,
exactly.
I guess, and the change is also backwards compatible. So the room is, what am I trying to say? Like the
It's still not too late.
yeah, basically the space for change. So it's not too late. Okay. All right. Scroll back up here. This is today.
Nice.
Okay, that's this one. Add traffic distribution, internal traffic policies, fields.
Yeah, this is a new one. One new one
Okay,
from
I see.
2 weeks.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago.
Okay. What's up? All right, so we're like lifting these up from the service API. Okay.
Yeah. But as Mike is pointing out, well, actually, Mike's in the call. Hi, Mike.
Hi.
Yeah, go for it if you want.
Sorry, pointing out where. Oh, is it in chat or something?
It's in the other. Yeah.
I left a comment about there's a pending cap that Dan Winship has been driving that is replacing prefer close with prefer same zone and adding prefer same node for just clarifying the semantics here. So
okay, I see.
Yeah, it's weird in that like the thing that's been around for a while is technically graduating, but it's also
being deprecated.
added a caveat saying please use this other thing instead.
Oh, I know all about that. Okay.
I think like replacing is not the exact word because I don't think they will ever remove the other thing, probably.
That's basically the reason why they can't remove it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just if we want to either start with the smaller set or be explicit about like potentially adding the same zone, same node to this as well. I think any of those options are fine. Just basically like be aware of the pending cap.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And when I saw that cap, I thought it might. Well, what we would really want is also to have a prefer same cluster.
Yeah. Well,
traffic distribution, but
that was about my other Google Doc, but
yeah,
it would probably be another field.
Or wait for this. We're kept to.
Or if it's the same field, it means that we
the
have to go all in with the network.
Sorry, everybody's talking at the same time. What?
Right.
Is this true?
No, I don't necessarily think. Like I don't think they are adding any more things there.
Isn't that what
If
this
it's-
is?
Prefer same zone and prefer same node are the things that are being added in that
They're
cap.
being added.
That they're being advanced in that cap. I don't think that we're trying to change the cap at all.
Right. Sorry. Did
Yeah.
I understand correctly that the effect of this situation in SIG networks effect on this PR is that we could make this change now and then add on whatever they're adding on later, or wait for them to add on later and do it all together? Or did I misunderstand what you guys were saying?
The
Well-
former is probably fine. It's just adding the note about like non-exhaustive and we expect additional options to land here.
Uh-huh. So you're saying expect additional options to land that would also be the
But wait, do we expect additional option? It's already landed. The new ones.
Yeah, PR was
They're at
first.
least beta. I don't, are they GA?
It's like beta 134 and stable like in the next version that is releasing in a few months.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So this is about this.
The thing I was going to say that is potentially interesting, regarding Steven's comment about prefer same cluster is particularly for like multi-zone clusters, you could get into some weird intersections.
Yeah. Yeah, that's also a bit why I was proposing to be like a separate field, probably on the service export, I guess. But that's later, probably.
Yeah.
All right, I can't track the provenance right now, since I'll soften.
Yeah, well, I was double checking like when like yesterday or something. I don't remember when we talked about it, and it was like beta 134 and stable 135.
Yeah, I see that in the kept.yaml, but I couldn't confirm that's it's still its state in like the main branch right now, because it looks like they moved it and blah blah blah. Okay, but anyways, maybe. And in any case, it sounds like we're cool with doing that follow on if it comes down to it.
Yeah.
Seem okay to you? Okay. Cool. So then this is the PR for that. Reopen it one more time for total confirmation. Yeah. Okay. So this is good, good, good. Should I put a note here also? This is the same as this. I'll link it. Triage note. This is the code PR for the cap change triaged at blah. Okay. The breadcrumbs. Okay. Anything else I missed?
Should we
In
briefly
the
talk
notes?
about the second one now, Mike?
The second one?
Yeah, the CRD version change.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yes.
So, well, I was going to answer on the decision, but
Oh, yeah, because Mike's here now. We saw that you were talking to us. So we want to talk back at you.
Right. So my main concern about like, I mean, technically we do want an auto-incrementing number, but if we do an auto-incrementing number, we kind of lose the ability to do a Semver version later. Although technically we could like encode the Semver as a unsigned integer by like multiplying by, I don't know, 1000 every
No, so that's why I was suggesting using a different name. So like revision is how I've seen this done in other charts.
Mhm.
It's like whether like in the use cases I've seen internally, it's like a like sub patch version when you like bump container dependencies or stuff like that without like actually making code changes. But that's something that can be a separate number that like is detached from the actual like version. So rather than naming it version, just having a separate bump field if all you want is like a basically check of make sure I'm not downgrading to an older Git hash. That might be simpler than trying to do semver-ish changes that will be different than the GitHub published semver version.
I see. So you're talking about like the name of this and the shape of this.
Yeah, like CRD schema revision.
Revision is
one.
like 10 or whatever.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever. The
Exactly.
generation number, energy.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Generation number, exactly, yes.
Okay.
But what happens if we do want revision? Like for instance, we introduce VIA beta 1 and remove V1 alpha 1 at some point and really want to patch V1 alpha 1 in an older version because I don't know, something happens. Like, oh, actually, they add something to traffic distribution or something like that. Oh, no, wait. I don't think it's defined in the CRD, actually, but something around that. I don't know.
I see. So you want to be able to go back to the prior. You want this to have more spots for you to. You want your generation number to have more, like a patch itself in case you need to go back.
So I think those are two separate use cases. Like if you want to be able to like go back and maintain multiple minor versions of it, then really you should be doing it like with the release and keeping those in the same cadence.
But then if we do the revision first and then add a version, like for auto install checking, it should like check both versions somehow.
Yeah.
In the
Well, so
case
I
you were
think so,
sorry. Well,
yeah, so I think well, if we ever do want to have sort of branches, then having a single revision number doesn't work. And that means that any installer would have to check both the semantic version number and the revision. I think that's fine. The next question then is, do we have to encode the project semantic version number in the CRD? And I think the answer to that is yes, because otherwise there's nowhere for it to be stored in the installed CRD. And so ultimately that means we need both. But then so we can make things a bit cleaner compared to some of the issues that were discussed earlier. If we have an always incrementing revision number, that's fine. And then, well, at least I think it's fine, and we can enforce that it's always incremented on changes. And then we just have a semantic version number in another field, while in the currently defined field, and that's synced with the tags, and that's doable in the release process.
And do you want some tools, or you just expect to always remember to like bump it or something like that? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. How's it handled in Gateway API?
We don't do any of this revision stuff. We just release once every few months and have the bundle version in the chart.
No, but like I meant because we have something that would help bumping the revision, but we don't have like neither a release plan or a tool that would help doing this. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah,
Should
the
we?
question is for the second part, how does Gateway API go about doing the releases with the version in the bundle?
we manually update it.
Yeah.
It's a minor bump once every 4 to 6 months.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
feel like there's versions of this like where there's like some like JSON file somewhere with like the like dictionary between like this version is valid with these numbers or whatever. It's not great, but it's
There's
like
a
a
lot of
thing.
more advanced systems like this. Like you can also do like changelog automation that tells you what your semver should be with like entries for like we're not, this project is not moving fast enough that investing in any of that machinery is probably worth it.
Yeah, exactly. We just need to remember to bump it when we do a release. And then have the tag on that commit.
Technically, if we forget, it's not the worst.
End of the world
also.
either. Yeah. Yeah.
It's not the best, but it's not the worst also with the revision. Okay, so I mean, I'm fine with that as long as even you are fine with like resetting the revision to 0 and fixing the version at every release.
Yeah, I'm not sure we even need to reset the revision.
I mean, it sounds cool, no? It would force us to
Coolness.
Yeah, it's a good indicator.
Yeah.
Yeah, when the revision gets to around 100, maybe it's time to do a release.
Yes, I love that. This is like in I play some like MMOs. This is so not important, but everybody's like, what happens when we get to level 100? Are we gonna like start over again?
So yeah, so ultimately it would be like a fourth component in semver, but with no semantic significance. It's just like the build numbers you get in some projects.
Yes.
Yeah, that works for me.
We like this.
Updating the PR then.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, I have immortalized the conversation in words.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
And now we can get to the topic.
Yeah.
So Arthur again.
Hey. Yeah, so the Cilium cluster mesh reviewer that I usually work with for MCS API, like pointed out that this is super similar to ports like the IP families reconciliations, because well, as I pointed out multiple times, but like a few months ago, so quite a long time ago, I would want to do an intersection of IP families within like all service exports, so that when you are a client and you like reach the service import using like any of the advertised IP family, you are sure that you can contact every pods in every clusters. Whereas if you would do an union, for instance, you would not be sure to reach everything, because some pods could only be advertised in like IPv6, some only in IPv4. And so you don't really know what is happening inside your service import when you don't have an intersection. And it's actually the kind of the same thing with ports, because for instance, if you add a new like a service with an additional port in one of your cluster, right now it's an union, and it's not, I don't think it's like technically very much specified, but what an implementation could do, and that's I think what we do in Cilium, is only reaching for pods that have this port. So essentially you are reaching for a subset of pods, which is not a big deal, because I mean, sometimes you want to add some more ports and it would feel a bit clunky to having to define it only on the oldest service export. But maybe we should, like, I don't know, add a conflict for for instance, or change the union? I know that, Mike, you mentioned it in a few GitHub PR/issues some time ago, but
Yeah, so the behaviors that you're describing in Slim, I think is actually fine. It's potentially more complex on an implementation to track if there's only a subset that's exposed on that interface or like exposed with that IP family or with that port. But if you have a service that's running mostly on port 80, but on one cluster, it's also on port 8000. If a request for port 8000 only goes to that subset of pods that are able to serve it there, that's actually fine, I think. And maybe we clarify that. Versus like the intersection would mean that no traffic would ever be routed to that because it's not available on all of the pods. So I think that's a fine implementation, and you could do something similar for IP families. Basically, the situation I want to avoid is where you have a union and a dumb implementation that would try to route port 8000 if it's exposed on a single service in one cluster to any of the backends across all of them and have like a basically dead end for 99% of the traffic.
Just like one difference for IP families, because I think it's way less obvious for IP families because you would have to know how your pod somehow like negotiate in a dual stack cluster if it's IPv4 or IPv6. Whereas with ports, I mean, the code would only contact one port, and if you start adding one more, it's like way more explicit. But yeah.
Yeah. So I think the underlying like point that a user could have like this service on different ports like is fine / we're dependent. I would say it's more like we're dependent on the user following the idea that like a service in the same multi-cluster service is fungible across each of them, and like the way that they do that, or the way that we can leave it open in the way that like Mike is talking about, that they could add more ports later and that still not break all of the other stuff, is one of them. So yeah, I also agree that it's okay, like from the perspective of MCS, I guess, that like only a subset of pods can be contacted. I think if you're interested in maybe like not hard breaking on like raising a conflict, like a error, super big error, but maybe like some sort of warning condition or something to like give some information about like the deployment of like different IP families and or ports. I think that's something we could move forward with that's within the bounds of what MCS is responsible for.
So interesting idea. So for instance, if we, well, I'm not sure if a warning for IP families would matter if we do an intersection. Maybe it does, but I'm not.
Sure.
I haven't like waited. But
Yeah.
for ports, so you would not raise a conflict, but raise an additional field like a warning or something like that.
Right.
Basically.
Yeah. Just some like condition that's non-blocking for info. I feel like we may have talked about other such conflict infos as opposed to conflict explosions in the past. I don't think it's super, important, but yeah, that's just a thought. And I feel that's more in line with what MCS is offering to somebody.
But technically, the conflict condition is, well, at least for us, not blocking anything. But maybe it's often seen as like something that you should really change.
Yeah, I guess ultimately that's up to the implementer if they interpret that conflict as blocking or not. But unless we're clear about what our expectations are regarding how to interpret that condition in the cap.
Yeah. Because I think it should probably be in the cap, like this warning or conflict, no?
Feel free to copy paste the stuff I
I
just done.
totally am,
That.
yes.
Just like literally stick that into the cap.
Yeah.
It's basically either is fine. What you want to avoid is union with a dumb implementation where it's not tracking the eligible backends, because then you end up with like traffic destined for dead end destinations.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe we just expand the section in the cap to have this language, and that's sufficient.
Yeah, but like my point is, I think we should also inform the user that like all of their backend will not be reached if they use some ports or something.
Maybe like through a status condition or something like that if there's some mismatch.
Yeah, I was initially going to like normal conflict conditions. Like you still do the union, you still do everything you want, but if it's not an exact match everywhere, you raise a conflict. But Laura also mentioned like doing it even like another field than conflict. Don't know what it would be named, but
Yeah, that seems like a possibility. Also the like union intersection behavior is something that probably should be possible to write a conformance test for. Like you have two different services, each are exported, one has an extra port for
Yeah.
like a dual stack cluster, and just like test like either is it ever routed to it, or if it's routed to it, make
okay.
sure that it succeeds.
Yeah, it would be really easy to check for the like different condition, but yeah, this is like the harder step, but still possible. So okay, and so what are your thoughts about doing it in the conflict condition or another condition, not conflict?
Well, sorry, one more thing. Can we go back? Is whether it's union or intersection for IP families still under debate?
Oh, this is in the cap, it's like implementation defined.
Okay. And then this is something we could inform people is the side effect of those things if it's not already discussed, I guess, in the cap is what the output of this part of the conversation is, I think.
I think we should define in the cap what is going to do for ports, and for
Okay.
IP family, we just maybe do a ref. Hey, by the way, this is a similar problem to ports, depending on whatever you do.
Yeah. So they know that it is similar implementers is who that is. Okay. All right. So now we're talking about if something was going to raise information that there's a conflict in ports and or IP families across the cluster set for a given service export. Where should they say that? And this is partially related to is the fact that we think the user should know, so they could go fix it, assumedly, if they wanted to, or audit their lifestyle.
The existing conflicted probably still makes sense for this. I think we already have the port conflict.
Yeah, I think we do have the port conflict. I'm trying to look at the cap and remember
They're
right
just
now.
like a semantic super nitpick, which is that port conflict don't have an S. And if we consider the ports as a wall, it could be ports conflict with an S. But anyway.
Arthur, you were made for writing standards. Okay, yeah, I can't like, I do think we should use the existing, like, do we for any other reason feel that users like don't look at status conditions on imports, service imports, and that's like why I think that's fine to put it there, where we already put other conditions that are like this. And if we feel that we need to describe a new one that describes this, I think we can discuss that.
Yeah.
Isn't this on the export? I think that's where we already have the conflicted.
Oh yeah, sorry, export, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Like this, because it's already a thing. And as far as I can tell, users would look at this.
Yeah, in our case, we even added like metrics. It could even be theoretically shared code if you are interested, but yeah.
Okay. I'm going to link to this. Okay. So yeah, that sounds cool. If that sounds cool with everybody else. Okay, so in conclusion, IP family reconciliation and port reconciliation are similar problems. Depending on if someone does a union or an intersection of a port or an IP family, they'll have a similar problem because clients will try and contact pods and only some of them may be able to respond if it's a union. And clients will try and contact pods and a bunch of them won't even be on the list if we only offer them the intersection. We could write some conformance tests for this so people know what's going on. And then separately, we could make the conflict for ports more obvious. The fact that for a given service export, the pods backing it have not all the same ports exposed. We could make that more clear to an end user by adding a service export status condition that represents this. That's what I got.
I think the message should probably say like which behavior the implementation is choosing. So like the message field is where you can say like the port whatever is dropped or like is not exposed on the or is not exported because it's not present on all other exports or something like that. Or similarly, like traffic to port 8,000 will only be routed to a subset of eligible backends. Like,
Yeah, I think
text field here.
In the case of ports, the KEP is strict that like it has to be a union, though it could have more flavor per implementation in this condition message, like what that might mean for that implementation.
Yeah,
and then in the case of IP families, that is implementation decided, but Arthur was suggesting to not treat it, not give it the same condition, maybe.
Well, it would be probably like IP families conflict, something like that.
Okay, okay, yeah.
But the what I was
with
going
ports,
to say,
the dumb union case is basically the potentially
I see.
one.
I see.
Like even though it does say union and cap, it's a dumb implementation.
Right. There are two variations where
Yes.
the implementation tries harder, or the implementation is like, haha, you tried to go to a pod that doesn't have this, you can't have it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say about the message. We don't like prescribe the exact message that the implementation should go, but I mean the suggestion of the message in the cap could be specified, but it would only be like a suggestion, I guess.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's absolutely only a suggestion.
All right.
So,
I feel like I got this a little bit better now.
okay, so something else before probably beta v1. we are getting there.
I mean, it's still like addition, not
Yeah.
like it's, yeah, I think I do want, this is kind of separate, but like you can still add stuff after being
Mm,
promoted. Like separate fields can go through their own experience. So it's not
yeah, but
so hard of a stop of like freeze and the planet freeze forever.
technically the port thing is like a somewhat breaking change. Well, I mean, not entirely, but you change what is considered to be a conflict in port. So it would be best to probably do it before.
To me, I just see this as like more information about like this is not changing the behavior or like what the ports field is doing, like an existing field of this ports field is doing.
Yeah,
So
we have
Yeah.
shipped like minor revisions to
Yeah.
conformance and behavior expectations in Gateway API in minor versions before.
Yeah, I don't see this as breaking at all.
Well, I mean, for some user, they might upgrade their implementation and see some service export as being conflict, and that might trigger their monitoring to go ahead or something. I don't know. That's the only thing.
Yeah, I still think that's okay.
Okay then.
Yeah, we've seen that as a acceptable, like known risk of upgrade. You call it on the upgrade notes in Gateway API.
Okay, fair enough.
And even in core Kubernetes, I think we've seen similar things for resources that change very slightly in versions.
Okay. Is that all the chatter on this? Any other thoughts? Cool. All right. Back to you, Stephen.
Yep, thank you very much. And so that's the end of the agenda for today. And no one has joined later who would want to comment on the earlier stuff. No. So unless anybody else has anything to bring up, we can end the call now. Thanks everybody for participating, and see you next week.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So,
Bye.